I will talk about what we do. I'm one of the two partners of Encore Heuraux office with my friend Julien Chopin. We start working together from the school, and now we spend 12 years together, and we're a small team of 6-7 people working in Paris, in France. The idea of a lecture is not just to show you pictures that you can go on the website and you can go by yourself. It's more to explain why we do this project. It's more to give you some tactics and strategy to understand the way we do. And it's more to talk about the process. Because we think architecture is a very complicated thing. There is a lot of elements. There is a client, a budget, a site, history, materials, and so on. So we are not so much interested by the result. We are more interested by the way the people do, the way you can bring a situation and to put the situation maybe in different direction, and the way you can make from ideas to reality. So for that, we think that our work is to make a research in a different fields. So we will research in references, what was the people do before you, the research in the uses, what do the people that use the space will do, program, client, ideas, shape, travels, team, to have a good team, to make good project. If you don't have a good team, you don't make good project, that's sure. Materials, of course, and a story. And the story is the thing that will connect all the others together to make a proposal. So this is the way also we work. We have a first phase of what we call the first analysis, where we make a circle from intuition and references. Intuition is what you are before when we were a child, what you know from the world around you. It's what you feel inside you. And references, it's what you learn at school, in the newspaper, on the television, traveling, in the street. And then you have a phase of production. And we are doing models, we are doing 3Ds, and we are doing images. All this, not just to do images for images, but all this to make a representation and a discourse, a story of what we want to explain. And also there is something very important to know, it's the long time of doing small project, big project, architecture. You have a prospecting time, then you meet a client, then you have a proposal, you have a development phase, and a construction, and the building life. It's very important to keep in mind all this time. You are not doing just a competition, or you're not doing just a construction, but you need to think all this different time. And also something very, very important is for us to stay generalist, because the architect is one of the only work that allow you to do in different fields. And now the society in France, in Europe, here also, try to separate the people. Try to do, you do just a small part, you do a small part, you do a small part, you do a small part, and nobody has the global vision of the society. So as architect, we can meet sometime a minister of culture, and in the afternoon we can meet a guy, a mason with no paper, just working on the field, doing your building. And it's very a unique chance that you have, that you will have when you will be architect, to be a cross-society section. So please keep in head that it's a fight, because it's not easy. Because if you do just housing, it's difficult to make cultural building. If you do just, I don't know, stadium, it's hard to do a school. And people always told you, but you never do a school, so you will not do a good one. So you need also to fight for that. So now I will cross around 15 projects, try to be not to be too long on it. And I will not describe the project, but I'll try more to explain the way we do, why do we take this decision, and why did we decide to go in this direction. So the first there was the very first project that gave us the energy to start working together and to start to go from the ideas to the reality. Herbefall was a very, very small project. We just understand that there is air going from the metro, and we just put very small fabric lines, very light, and doing this small act, we just do artificial grass for the sidewalk. It was a very natural action. There was no authorization, we just do like this with no authorization, and it was a big success because everybody was just looking, hiking, talking together, and it was changing the way the people look at the place that they know and they cross each day. So it was a very strong starting point to understand that what you see of the city and what you can imagine that you can change can also change the way the people understand the place where they are. Then we go to the city town and we show them, and we show also the metro company, and we work on a huge event for the whole Paris city on more than 100 places, and it was a very nice time to go everywhere and to choose a good one. But it was just before the second Gulf War in Iraq, and so 2 weeks before they just stopped the events because it was too dangerous. So it was, in a way, it was very hard because it was the first project. We were very, very young, no money, nothing, and it stopped. But we didn't fail, and we say, okay, that's also part of the project, and we keep doing. And the second one is a diploma project that we did with Julien Chopin, my partner. It was to make a moving cultural center that used to go on the tracks of the train, and that used to stop in the train station. And from a train, you unfold a cultural center. It was the idea that architecture, it's not always hard. It's not always forever. Maybe you can think differently. You can think some mobile things that are more connected to the way we use them. And it was a very strong also connected point to the territory, because in France there is a very dense rail network, and we wanted to bring cultural center where there is no, by this direction. So there was a train, and from the train there was a tent, and inside the tent there was some concert or whatever you want. So it was a theoretical project, but after we met a lot of people in the train company, French train company, and 2 years after they asked us to make an exhibition in a train, in a real train that crossed all the country. So also it's very important that when you have a subject that you really have inside you, you can work on it, and it's always do something positive after. So that's always something interesting. Then the second part is to understand as designer, conceptor, whatever, architect, so you can say the word you want. We don't care the words like this, we just want to know what you have to say. We think also that we have a responsibility, what we call proposal. It's to say, we don't just need to wait that client asks you a question, but it's also that you have to propose things to people, to your city, to your neighbor, to your family, to whatever you want. But it's very important to keep in mind that you are here to answer a question, but also sometimes you are here to ask a question. So the first answer that we give was a festival in Brussels, and they asked us to cross the city. It was very long, it was 700 meters, and the budget was very small, it was 6,000 €, and they want an art installation. So we work a bit, and instead of doing something like art, urban art, we propose to make a transport company. And we propose to make something which is a décalage, which is a shift from a touristical practice, and we made a camel transport company to go from one square to another, to just ask ourselves and ask the Belgian people, what is the difference of doing camel in Egypt, and if you do camel in Brussels, what is behind all this? And also it was an idea to ask you what is the way we have, the connection we have with transportation. Why the animals are not anymore in the city? And there was a lot of questions. And when you do something like this, which is a kind of joke, a kind of collage, surrealistic, you can laugh, but also you can ask a question to people. And it was a big thing to bring these incredible animals, very soft and very quiet animals, and you are at 3 meters high and you cross the city. And this is a guy from the city of Brussels that also wanted to try. And in this kind of Chinese question. It was a small project of disaster architecture, and we make a very far research on homeless people, because the Chinese museum asked us to make a prototype of Chinese architecture, and we want to ask what is the common situation from homeless. If there is natural disaster, political disaster, social disaster, what is the thing that is close to all this situation? And we realized that the question was the question of sleeping safely. It was a question to spend the night sleeping, because we all need to sleep a minimum of hours in a day. And when you are in the street, the time when you sleep, it's a very hard time, because you get robbed, you get heat, you get cold, you get hot. So we just want to design a very small room that you can move alone, and also that you can flip and sleep inside. And it was a very simple question, but we make it for real. So we design a prototype in Paris. We take it with the bikes, we cross the city, we sleep inside, we try to understand the problems of such architecture, and we make a second prototype, much more precise, in Barcelona, in Spain. And it's also very important not just to stay as SketchUp designer, but sometimes also to quit the computer and to go for real, to make for real with your hand, and to feel what you are designing. It's very also important. And so you flip and you can sleep inside. And also, this slide talk about the question of the name, because we always have a lot of fun to find a name to the project, and it's find a name to make it more sense, to make a project in one direction, and it's also a funny time of giving more density, more story to your proposal. Another very small project, it was bike lines in Paris. It was a new way of crossing the city, and there was a big problem of sidewalk, bike lanes on the sidewalk. So we designed a small machine just to sign the sidewalk and to make the people understand that it's not a sidewalk, it's also for the bike. So it's a very small action, but just to reveal a situation that sometimes is conflict, because the bike, they push the pedestrian, and the pedestrian say, I'm on the sidewalk. So it's also your work to understand this small shock in the society. This one is not so important, there is much more important ones. But it's just to talk to you about the vision of what, as conceptor, designer, architect, we can propose. And now the first buildings that we made from this small installation, it was very important time, because all these small projects, they give us a more feeling of the way we want to make the project. It was a starting process conception phase. And for the Petit Bain, it's a question of doing something with something else, and the client asked us to make a cultural center in a boat, in this boat. And we say, oh, it's interesting, cultural, blah, 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 we like. But we go to the boat and we say, it's not possible because of that. And maybe of all the pictures I show you, the most important picture is this one. Is the way we call it the triangle des Bermudes. It's a tripod that you always need to understand the money, the project, the time you have for doing this. And if you forget one of these, the project will be not so good. Because if you just think the money, the project can be very bad. If you just think the project, you will collapse because the client cannot pay. And also, if you don't have the time to do in the right way, it's not possible. So we propose them not to use the old boat, but to create a new one. And it was very interesting, but they said, but the new architecture cannot be nice. The new architecture is always cold, it's always gray, it's always... So it was a very interesting moment to explain, to bring them, show them buildings that are new, and to convince them that you can do new things, but also that have a real story. So we made this kind of project. And also we bring some baths from demolition of a building to make some garden on the roof. So this is a small part of the project. I will not explain more. We make a disco ball, but it's connected to the boat universe. with the mother of the architect at the office that put all the mirror on the wall. And we put this building in close to the National Library in Paris. And it was a very simple iron box with a wood box on it. And when we finish the construction, the clients say, but because we take part of all this phase, already now this project have a real story, and already now we feel very comfortable and we feel very in a place that we never imagined. And it was a big time to bring these guys from a time that they say new architecture has no sense to a time where they are really proud of it. Jobolab is another project. It's more to bring a old building to a very high-tech. So it's also interesting to go for a very low-tech project with very few money, and also sometimes you have more money, but sometimes when you have more money, you do not so good project, because you spend all the money and the things are not useful. So it's also very interesting to have a lot of money, but not to use it. And it's what we did in this project. We make an innovation center for Saint-Gobain, which is a big French company of materials, but we try a lot of energy to say, because it's for innovation, you need to have free space. Because you don't know in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years what will be the innovation. So if you fill your building, it will not be any more innovation. It will be innovation in this time. But so we convince them to build emptiness. And it's very hard to convince a client that pay you to build something, and you say, you pay me the same, but I build nothing. And it was also a good experience of understanding this. We are close to the end. The Muse, it's a museum close to Paris also, and the question was to make an extension of a old train station. And we make a lot of research to find the right shape to be add to the existing. And we decided just to add a floor level to make a new ground for the existing building. So doing that, we made a lot of research in model, in 3D, in whatever, to find the right shape, to find the right proportion. So it's also talking about the experiment way of doing the right dimension. You need a lot of energy sometimes to put everything to the trash and to go back to think and to share with your team what can be the right one. And we really know that we win this competition because we need to make a big model. And when the mayor and all the guys, they put the model, our model in the site model, they say, oh, it's perfect proportion. And it was also a time of doing this. So we are close to finish. It will be open in 2 months. And it was our project for other reason, but that's it. And the last project we finished was a cinema in the south of France. Also an exciting project because in French the cinema more or less they look like this. So they take a box, a shoebox, and it can be Carrefour, IKEA, what you want, and they put cinema on it. And we just ask what can we did different from that, because we don't want to go in cinema movie like this. So we wanted to look at the past. We wanted to look at the old theater, movie theater in France, in the US, to understand what was the idea of the cinema in the more early decade. And so we decided, instead of doing a big box, to do 5 small cinema together, like 5 neighborhood cinema. So that was a proposal of the competition. So that was a typical shape. That is, a cinema is strange because it's huge and there is no one window. You do a 200 meters building with no window. So sometimes it's not so easy. So this is a reality. So we make a very simple concrete wall, and in front of the concrete we make a wood clad with a big number that also told the story of all the cinema, because there is a very commercial movie and there is also very cultural movie, and so that was also a story. So that was the result, and that was at night. That the main entrance is a light box to get inside, and you have the 5 small rooms on the side. And inside also, inside it was very interesting to ask the question of color, because you always think, oh, the color is for the end of the project, I don't mind, but the color is very hard. It's very important and it's very hard. And for that, we work with a fashion designer that help us to invent story to get the color. And so we try to find 5 stories to get 5 atmosphere. And this one was the stars in the night and you're outside. So we make the color and all the lights to say this. And this was the starting of the day, when you sleep outside and you just have the sun. So it's very, you say, okay, it's just blah, blah, blah. But it's just to tell you that we need to have this story to make this response. And after, we forget the story. Because when people go to the cinema, they don't have the story written on the wall. They just go there and they say, okay. But it's the color question. I think Eric will do the lecture after me that will talk about image and he will talk about color, I'm sure. And that was a bathroom. And to finish, some small project also to think that we do buildings, but we very put energy not just to do big things, but also to keep small scale project. And that was a small question with 3,000 euros, very small budget. And it was to make a proposal in a park, and we take this very common table and we flip them and we put a hammock again on it, and it was what we call a hammock table. So it was very just to look what you have, to look also what you can use, what is already here. You don't need always to build everything and to put some wood and new materials. You can just shift materials. And we did this very simple installation. So we can combine, you can do whatever you want. So to finish, I just want to insist maybe, because I already told, but the way we look around us, and it's also something that we need to learn all the time. And for example, we make a small project in Romania, in Timișoara. It was very interesting, and we go there with 4 photographers, and we ask them to grab crumbs of paradise. Crumbs of paradise is what can you just look at your city, small scale, big scale, whatever, that can give you a story. And it was for an exhibition in this building. And so we cross Timișoara in all the direction, and the photographer bring back some small green house made with a bottle. Maybe you know that, but we never see that before. You just take a bottle and it's a small greenhouse. And this is also the gypsy market, which is crazy, because they just use the car to bring the stuff, and they put the stuff on the car, and that's it. So the market is just a car park. They all come with the car, and they put all their stuff on the car, and it's at a good dimension. And so it's very, very interesting. And also it's what we call the gypsy castle. It's a crazy story in Romania of this kind of crazy architecture. And something more strange. It's not Photoshop, it's a real building. So it's a way of looking very precisely what is around. And then we make a very simple scenography for the exhibition. We just take a gyps board from the shop, and we just put them very simply in the building, and we put the pictures on it, and that's it. So no cut, no nails, no screw, nothing, just glue, put the pictures, and that was the exhibition. And at the end, you can take the gyps, and we give the gyps to a small association that make building for people, and so also the story can continue after the exhibition. And in a different country, we've been many times in Mongolia, which is an incredible country, and Ulaanbaatar, an incredible city, because maybe it's the last city of the world, because they used to be nomadic people, and now they are less and less nomadic, so there's a lot of questions there. And we find incredible things like this. It was just a greenhouse made from car glasses. So it was in deep Mongolia. The guy who invented this, he just get his wife that broke his glass of the car, and so he go to the garage and say, but there is a lot of glass that is doing nothing. So he just decided to make it. And from the crack, he can get the water and put the water in the plants. So it's and now other neighbors, they want the same, so now he's doing a small business with it. So it's very, very interesting, because for us, it's very clever. For us, we want to do architecture like this, just to see what is around us, and just to give a lot of energy to make something that is right, cheap, simple, and also which have a story, because when you see that, you just are crazy about the story. So that was also a studio that we made with the students in Ulaanbaatar. I will go very fast and to try to understand the city and the youths dwelling and shelters, and so we make a big report on some village, and then we put the report on a large scale. So it's more the research phase of the project. And also we make what we call a global approach, because the water is very, very few in Mongolia. We need to use everything, so we make a shower and also a greenhouse and all connection to design a very simple water kiosk. So to finish, because it's always need to finish, we call a bamboo boat. It was also a very clever way of doing things. For us, it's very respect, guys. It's in China, and they just take the bamboo, they remove the skin of the bamboo. With the skin, they do the fire, and with the fire, they give the shape, and with the shape, they give boat. So also that is very, very few materials, few energy, but very nice result, because the burning bamboo makes the graphical also sign of the boat, and when the boat is too old, you can burn and you can restart. So it's also a very, very new idea, and it's very a pity that we are not looking at that, and we are just looking at the same stupid mistake that we did in Europe, they did in the US, and now they did in China, and now you do in Ukraine. So it's very also consciousness to understand the way we can do maybe differently, and maybe you can also continue to invent the way of doing things. And this picture was yesterday in Kiev. Maybe you know the place is close to the arch, and we were really interested by this very simple element, because you don't understand what it is for, but it's just a simple game. You just need to climb the échelle, ladder, and to get up if you want to win the teddy bear. But because there is just 2 points, the ladder do all that, all the time. But the guy, he can go like this, he go up, because he's very trained. And about the game, we are really interested in this kind of situation, because this is really public space. And this is what we always forget when we design. This is what all the politics forget when they want to make new neighborhood. They never think that if there is not this kind of event that people can go, can try. The guy in the suit, he just removed his suit because he wanted to try. So it was a very, very, very strong moment of being together at the same time, same place, and just living in a city. So thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. We always close with this picture, because we really like it. This picture is the idea of using more your brain and less the resources, less natural resources, less material. And it's very issue for the future, because we know that the future will be different from the past. It's always like this. The future is always different from the past. Maybe we think more of that. And in France now the times are not so easy because of economic crisis, because of a lot of questions, because also of the changing situation, world situation. And I think it's the same here, and it's the same everywhere we go. So there is two options. Because it will be different, or we say, oh, it's different, I don't want to understand, I just quit, I don't want to be architect, I don't want to be anything. Or you just try to find your tactics, trying to find your way of doing as a Ukrainian architect, as the people you are, as the person you are, really strong. And it's also something very interesting, just to invent your own process. So the idea to show you project is not to say you should do that, it's good. There is no sense. I don't want that at all. I just try to explain the way we work on the process of doing these things, to say that you are, each of you, you need also to find your own way of thinking, of doing together, or having fun together, and try to be at the right place, the right time, for the right direction. Merci.